Hi, friends. It's Mr. Wolf again. I'm a teacher at Jennings County High School, and today I'm here to talk to you about topic 5.10 modern campaigns in AP US government and politics. Today we'll look at features of modern campaigns, fundraising, which we talked about a little bit in our last video, consultants, the perpetual campaign, and social media. And as our friend Jennifer says, you don't need anything other than your big brain. So, our first stop, as she says on the tour of this modern campaign, is a couple of quotes here. We have the seemingly permanent minority status debilitates party members. Representative William Steger, a Republican from Wisconsin. The next quote we have here, which is longer and uses more big words, is the critical characteristic of a competitive party system is insecurity, argued Schlesinger, political scientist Joseph Schlesinger. Insecurity, in turn, motivates partisan exertions. Under competitive conditions, both parties will put forth a high level of effort to win. Meanwhile, when a single party is dominant, quote, the effort of the controlling party will be minimal, and that of the hopeless party will at best be token. That was stated by Francis Lee in their writing Insecure Majorities. So, looking at some of the things early incumbent presidents do in modern elections. All right. So, in January 20th, 2017, 3 3/4 of a year before the 2020 election, President Trump filed for re-election. Okay. In February, okay, of 2017, only less than a month later, President Trump had his first re-election rally. Most candidates announced their presidential candidacy 18 months before presidential election. Okay, so President Trump really started to set a trend. All right, it started a little bit before him, but he really ramped it up here with this almost immediate kind of relaunching of his campaign for reelection to an idea that we talked about at the very beginning. We mentioned something called the perpetual campaign. Okay, so that perpetual campaign is basically, we think of the word perpetual. It means never ending, okay? If someone's perpetually sad, they're always sad. If someone's perpetually optimistic, they're always optimistic. So when we say a perpetual campaign, that is going to mean basically a never ending campaign. The person announces their candidacy for presidency maybe 18 months before the first time they run. But if they win, then almost immediately now they start, even if they're not straight out saying it, they start kind of working on having a campaign ready to go for their reelection. Okay? So, party versus candidate. We talked about how parties have lost influence over time. Already, we've discussed how in the past, the party was more important than the candidate. But over time, it has kind of turned towards being more focused on the candidate. Okay? Parties have lost influence. Reforms like the McGovern-Fraser Commission democratize candidate nomination. Coalitions within parties realigned, endorsements from politicians are less impactful in the desire for an outsider, right? Think about the popularity of somebody like eventual President Donald Trump, who, a lot of his supporters frequently would say that they liked him because his lack of time in Washington. They viewed his outsider status as a plus. Okay. Party money for the campaign is now less critical to the nominee. Okay. The Republican nominee for president is going to raise a lot more money on their own than they will money given to them by the Republican National Committee. However, parties still have the most data. Okay, data is very important for decision making in any field, not just politics. They have the most institutional knowledge of how politics works. They can coordinate policy agendas, reserve volunteers and organizers, retain information, and influence electoral practices and hold nomination contests. Okay, so while the campaign itself has become a lot more focused on the candidate rather than the party itself, the party is still paramount to a candidate's success in running. All right, so no matter how much we talk about the lack of party being as important now and things being more centered on the candidate, the party is still vital to a candidate's legitimacy to possibly win. Think about our we've discussed in the past how we have a two-party system where only two parties are realistically viable to potentially win an election. This is a great example of why. Okay. So, a couple things to take away from this lesson here, friends. Evolution of linkage institution is mostly beyond constitutional powers. Remember, those linkage institutions are going to be things linking people to politics, like interest groups or political parties. Okay. First Amendment rights to association, speech, and press protect how we influence the selection of representatives. Parties, interest groups, media, and elections are constantly evolving in the process of candidate selection. The effect of technological innovations in transportation, communication, and other sectors radically alter the process of candidate selection, and the length of campaigns are a functioning of financing, media attention, and ideological polarization. Okay, financing, think about fundraising and how much more time politicians have to spend raising money the longer and longer these campaigns become. Media attention, okay, if you announce your campaign 3 years before the race, you have a lot more time to get your views and you as a candidate out in front of people's eyes. And ideological polarization, okay, increasingly our politicians' viewpoints are becoming more and more radicalized, okay, and more our two sides, our left and right spectrums, are more polarized from each other, okay. So, as always, lastly, make good choices and have a great day. Thank you, friends.